It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you all today on a beautiful Friday. It's, 60 degrees outside in the dead of winter. With us today, we got Paul Weidel.
Hey.
Eric Schneider is muted.
Howdy. There we go.
There you go. Chad Jutner.
Hey.
And I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to reminisce about projects that we really liked. Really good projects, really good project moments, things we've done that we're proud of. And Eric, you teed up this topic in our chat, so I'm going to kick it over to you to start us off.
Sure. I was trying to, I wrote up my list and I was trying to figure out how to sequence them. And I decided to put the dumbest thing I ever did at the top as a developer, but it worked out. So it was a great victory in the end, but in the moment it seemed really stupid, and it will seem even dumber in retrospect because I'm going to say a word and it's going to make everyone in the room groan because it was built in Silverlight, which is just the hottest technology that has definitely sustained the test of time. But
was that Microsoft's Flash killer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the thing that killed Flash in the end was Flash. Go figure. But no, it was the setup to the story though is we were working with an independent publishing company that published textbooks, and they wanted to join the modern era and not only publish their books on paper. They wanted to do digital, and they had a thought. They wanted to build an e-reader, but they wanted to have a layer on top of that e-reader that was interactive, right? Where while you're reading the book, your classmates would be online and reading the book, and you could see them, you could interact with them, you could share highlights, you could chat with each other, you could talk to your professor through it and stuff. And it was a pretty novel idea in the era that we were doing this, and trying to build such a thing in like just in normal web like a JavaScript and that sort of stuff was not really feasible at the time. But Silverlight was more interactive, could hold TCP connections and stuff, so it had some advantages as a technology. But all of this functionality we're talking about like relied on the idea that we have a lot of data flying back and forth and chat or whatever. So chat, the important part of having chat is when they get a message, it needs to push down to the client. And so we needed, a reliable way to mux a bunch of like data streams together, and doing it in Silverlight. It's not like there was a huge community building tools and things around that. There wasn't a lot there. And I had used the library in the past for doing that for doing native applications. It was actually designed for audio and video streaming, but there was an underlying layer that was just a generic sort of I want to send a stream of data, and there's multiple streams like concurrently, and it deals with all the error correction and stuff. And so I ported that entire C library over to C#, find replacing and changing reinvented the idea of because C code has its pointers. So I created a managed version of a pointer to make the code portable, and rebuilt all of their structs and classes and all the code into classes, and it just worked in the end. It's not a vast library, so it's not like I was porting like millions of lines of code or whatever, but in the end, I was able to successfully port that over to C# with it being compatible with Silverlight, so it ran on the client. And not only did it work out of the gate, we built everything on top of it, and that was like one of the things I wrote that like had the least problems over time in my entire career, where we got this thing functional. It worked perfectly for years, and then we only had to ultimately rebuild it and replace it because Silverlight died at a point in time, right? like that's ultimately what killed it. But like that project was extremely successful in the end, and it's something. But yeah, like I said, it felt like a dumb idea that turned into what in retrospect was a great idea, but didn't the technology base didn't stand the test of time ultimately.
Your foundation was made of sand, not concrete.
Yes, but somehow it held together.
Now, Paul, you've had some interesting projects in the past. As I've watched some of your big event presentations, I've noticed some of them. And what's at the top of your list for one you loved, or maybe the one stinker you want to talk about?
I don't know if we'll talk about stinkers, but I think I even made a list right there. And number one is a medical insurance company I worked with. What made this awesome for me was it was one of the most lean projects I've ever done, where it's literally a product owner, business sponsor, and myself. And every week I was working for them part-time. Just every week we'd have an hour meeting, talk about what they want. I'd show them what I did, get feedback, say, yeah, I like that, or now let's do something different. And I don't know, in a matter of a few months, we were able to deliver something that, as far as I know, is still in production, still working, and they're extremely happy with. That just felt different. I don't know what it was. It was just maybe the simplicity, just there wasn't a lot of process around it. It wasn't a lot of really anything. It was just kind of people being on the same page and getting things done.
It's amazing how that kind of smoothness of a project, when things are just clipping right along. I did a big migration.
So before we move on from Paul, are you sure it wouldn't have been even better with more stakeholders? I mean,
no.
How was the documentation? Did you have a lot of it?
We didn't need a lot of it. So it was just an integration from a vendor's product into an existing system that I had worked on years before, and just kind of worked out well for us.
I had a similar experience doing a migration for a government entity. They had an extranet built on SharePoint 2007 using forms-based authentication, and then a intranet of all their stuff built in SharePoint 2010. So it was moving it all over and fixing authentications, and site owners had come and gone, and it was actually widely used as a communication tool with local schools and things like that. And the people were fantastic. They were so cool, so easy to work with and listen and take advice. And we only had to add like 2 weeks to the scope, and we did that in the first week. It was like, this is going to take a little longer. And then I was able to do more stuff while there was some downtime. So it's just one of those things where it wasn't a very long project, but when it was done, I walked out into the parking lot and I had a sense of loss because it was over. So that was I think that's my favorite, easiest, smoothest. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was smooth. So, and I only jump in and say that because it's along the same lines as Paul's. Chad.
Oh, hey guys. So favorite project? I don't know. So I've been on the same project now for 5 years, building the same exact product that I can't really talk about right now. Prior to this, I had my own company that we built over the course of 10 years, and that was probably the most fun I've had building something. But my favorite things that I've been building recently, I've really enjoyed some of the AI assisted kind of, right now they're just kind of toys that I've built. I've had a lot of like silly, dumb ideas on how we can use AI to make our lives a little bit better and maybe even have a little fun. So like right now, I'm building using AI. I'm building this this kind of it's a website. It's a spoof. I'm enjoying it. It's this thing that lets you upload, say, PDF files, and then just say like, "Hey, I want these words redacted," right? Like it just kind of blacks them out for you, and then saves the original. So it's called Redactor. It kind of sounds like an accountant from He-Man. And the POC works great locally. I'm impressed with what I've been able to do in just a couple of nights, and I'm having fun again doing it. Right, so I'm hoping to release it here pretty soon. I'm going to do some light marketing around it in kind of the Washington D.C. area, and just see what lands. But honestly, like I have been having a lot of fun building out these silly little tools. Like some of them are jokes, right? This is half of a joke, but we'll see what happens. And then I've been following a lot. So we're recording this, what is it, February 6th in Minneapolis, right? Kind of a few things happened in our town recently. And I've been looking at like what the community's been doing to kind of build tools to support folks that are affected by all this chaos. So some of the things that have come up, like trackers and mutual aid websites, all of those things, I wish I would have gotten involved sooner, and I wish I was able to help sooner, because those are actually like super tactile, super useful, like actually helping people's lives, right? Those would be really cool to get a hold of. And for the next event, I'll be more prepared to jump in sooner. I think it's a little late now for me to help out on any of these things. Are all kind of fully fleshed out, but it is neat to see how quickly we're able to like rapidly prototype, develop, and push these things out.
Yeah, you never know, Chad, when you can leap in, because my neighbor was delivering food to apartment buildings, which is a need, and that was physically strenuous. So they bought a giant lawn cart to bring the groceries into the building with, and they weren't able to put it together because they don't own any tools. Oh, and so me giving them a socket wrench was the key. the key thing that they needed in that moment to be successful in
10 millimeter.
Yeah, some of these
was it a 10 millimeter.
I just gave them the whole kit. Like, here you go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Some of these things, I mean, Eric, you think of the support you and I could offer, and Paul and whoever, right? I mean, at least for Minneapolis, it's a scalability issue for them now more than a feature issue. So I've messaged a couple people. I've offered to help. They are being taken care of. They're well supported. But those kind of things, like, I don't know that I've worked on anything yet that has been able to really, like, I mean, I worked on business software for, I don't know, it's been 30 years now, and it's fine, right? It supports a family, but it's not that fulfilling anymore. So I'd very much like to have some sort of outlet for helping the community a lot more, especially like nowadays, right? Like, I don't know. It seems like we're just have to wait another 5 years for something to blow up in our own city again. I'd like to be situated to help better.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, boy, how do you follow that up? That's such a I don't know. Those of you who aren't in our area, it can be kind of heavy for us right now. There's a lot going on. But hey, let's talk about another project I did where I thought I killed people. That'll cheer us up.
Yes, say more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul, okay. You killed people.
No, I thought I killed people. There's a difference there. Fortunately, I was on a project that involved providing nutrients to people on feeding tubes. I was informed of this, but about 2 weeks before we went to production. I did not realize the gravity of what the product did. I'd always thought it was maybe a little more innocuous. Of course, I tried my best on this project, but I think there's a difference. Maybe I would have pushed back a little harder had I known the severity of the project. But we went live, and you hear those going live stories where things are looking good. Hey, orders are coming through. This is great. And oh, hey, I just saw something that I didn't expect. Oh, there it is again. Oh, wait a second. I'm not sure this database is going to be able to stand up. So yeah, there was some chaos, different kind of chaos, and all that kept going through my mind was being told by one of our partners that, hey, we're not going to kill any people today, and kind of right. Let's hope we don't. So to cut to the chase, nobody was harmed. In fact, where things did fail is the people who needed the nutrients got extra nutrients for free, and and we put the fire out, and then we spent several months cleaning up the mess from the fire, and then we spent another couple years doing fire prevention, and now I believe we've created something that not only works better than what we started with, it does it a lot more effectively and efficiently than we had possibly hoped. So what I came in, the direction I had been given when I came into that project was just try not to change any code. We just need to get this done. And
yeah,
I think now, I mean, having gone through that, we went from thinking that we would lose a contract to them saying, no, we couldn't have done it without you. You guys are doing better than any of your competition. This was praise from my clients to them. So that always felt good. And hearing that, just that relationship we built going through what we did, and coming out with people being, having good, strong relationships with each other.
Yeah, I think some of those tough projects, end up being your favorites when you look back on them, and you got through it and you were successful in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're making me thankful, because there was a potential project that I was slated to work on where we dodged that bullet because we saw we were able to do some diligence in advance. But yeah, we were being asked to potentially build a notification system that was going to be used in a hospice setting, but built on an Apple Watch. Oh. And the specific interaction and flow that they wanted, the user experience they wanted, was not possible with the constraints of how an Apple Watch worked. And so we were able to wave a flag and say this is what we could build. It would not align with what you wanted to do. We're just being realistic here, and we did not get that project, and I'm thankful for it, because I think there would have been a lot of unsatisfied parties involved in that if they had pushed forward with it with that idea, right? Because they were trying to not build distinct hardware. I get why they were looking at the Apple Watch, but they needed something that was different than that to make it viable.
Yeah, I think you're lucky. Only the one time I dealt with any sort of a healthcare setting where patients can be directly affected, and holy cow, that there's a certain amount of extra gravity that comes with those, and it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, the kind of sort of related example I've used for my entire career is I prefer to avoid working on development projects that are safety related, Like, I don't want to be the guy writing code for anti-lock brakes, for example. And I realized that there would be a lot of structure around that in terms of testing and everything to potentially make that successful. But still, it just, it's a weight I don't want to carry, knowing that, if I had written it or done it slightly differently, maybe people's lives would have been spared or something, right?
Yeah. There's a couple medical device companies down the road for me, but I've talked to people who work in those places, and the culture there is very different from what we're used to doing business software. And it has to be. Some of these products are regulated by the FDA and can harm people if they don't work the way they're supposed to. The way they approach things like quality and design is very different from, I think, what we see in a lot of places. It's different than making a marketing app that just needs to be out by a certain date because it's part of a promotion. Whereas, hey, this, pacemaker, this has got to be inside somebody's body, keep somebody alive. The tolerance for failure is very different conversation in those two contexts.
But then conversely, I've been, like you mentioned marketing tools. Like, I worked on a marketing tool once where, it was like a fun, like, you do certain like health related activities and you earn points, and then it gets totted up. And there were people involved in that project that considered it a life and death circumstance, that if you looked at the way that it gave you percentages, is that it would give you percentages that would add that would add up to 100%. But if you added the numbers up, they didn't add up to 100 because the person didn't understand how rounding worked. Like 33.3 added 3 times doesn't equal 100; it equals 99.9, right? And it was just a result of rounding. And that person both didn't understand math and thought that was a critical issue, and it was a hellstorm to pay. They could not be refocused on the idea that this is just a fun thing for your customers to do.
Yeah.
Remember, I was at a place. This is kind of a similar thing where team that was next to mine in the organization had meetings for months to talk about what to do with the leftover percentage of a penny that was calculated on interest. And I can only imagine how much it cost for each of those meetings, because I swear there's like 10 people per. Just back on the napkin math, $100 an hour. Who knows if that's it? That's like a grand a week that they're burning on this, and the amount of money that would have been accumulated by this fraction of a penny. Who knows? Maybe it would have been $20.
Yeah, you reminded me of that. Actually, I should have put that on my list of favorite projects. Was that exact problem where I was working for a baseball league, and we wrote their ticketing system, which was a phenomenal project. It was like it was extremely successful, and the premise of it was a great premise, where they were licensing a off the shelf product for, it was like millions of dollars a year. Is if they could build their own version of that for less than those millions of dollars, then it's all free from then forward, right? That was the theory. But yeah, that was the problem they had, is that they would sell like a 3-ticket package for $10, for example. But then the way they did all of their reporting was at the ticket was at the ticket level. So what is the value of each of those tickets, right? Because you can't have fractions of a penny. And so it needed to work out that like one of those tickets was $3.34, and the other two were $3.33, so that it would still add up to $10. So you had to distribute that penny somewhere. And so that was a big thing. And so I wrote a distribute function that you feed in that, and then it had to be weighted and things too, because that's a very simple example. There was like more complex examples where different parts of it would have different weights that it all still needed to add up correctly. But yeah, I wrote that function, in an hour, and then it became the like cornerstone of all of their like financial reporting for like the next decade. And and again, it was one of those things that like it worked out of the gate and nobody ever touched it because it continued to function correctly. And then I think it ultimately got replaced by, we're going to a more proper like Lakehouse platform or something where that would be done internally. But even that was a big deal because they wanted it to work the same as the one I had written. So yeah, those pennies.
I had a few experiences where I was brought in to kind of a languishing, sick project that was not going the way they wanted it to, and kind of to do a turnaround, bring life back to it, get back on track. And one of them, they had been working for a year and really had nothing useful that had come out of it other than some big documents that they had collaborated on and written. And, they had, at the time, about 8,000 employees, and we were building their first intranet on SharePoint. And so that was tough because you go in and you have to identify the problems that are creating the problems and address that stuff. And then we ended up, me and a team that was in place that wasn't really being utilized, ended up scrapping everything and redoing it and delivering on time. So that was a big victory. And that one was painful because you're going in and you're seeing a lot of waste, really, just because kind of the way they went about it. And the intentions were great. The people were great. It just kind of just kept going. It kind of hit a spot, and then it was in this mode of good things are coming. Good things are coming. Good things are coming. You just wait. And they really kind of never showed up. So it was representatives from all these different parts of the company sitting around this giant table and trying to get this done with a big committee. And it took sort of a ragtag group of miscreants to go in and get her done. So those tough ones, because it turned out really well and people really liked it. I had another project where it was replacing a paper process, and it was there was laws that were passed, and so they had to start doing this process and producing this 60-page packet with different documents and things that had to be reviewed and signed. And there was this process that involved many, many different people. So when you created the packet, it would be coffee stained and dog-eared and very ugly. So we did electronically and through a workflow that led them through the process, and it ended up working very well. It kept going with reminders for quarterly check-ins that had to happen, and it really freed them up to spend more time doing what they do for a living. Because most places have regular jobs that they do besides these moments of big paperwork projects and processes and stuff. So yeah, going into a kind of a bad situation and coming out with a good situation, to me, is always very fulfilling. Although I did delete the operations guy from Gander Mountain. I deleted all of his emails, and we couldn't get him back. So that was not a win. It was not a very good day. He was very kind to me, though.
Okay, I was gonna make a recommendation. One of the other projects you mentioned is if it because I just saw something a few days ago that was I failed to recall that for in Unix there's some like suite of tools for manipulating documents and stuff, and someone wrote a plugin for that if nostalgia or it being authentic is when you're converting from a paper process to a digital version like you're talking about, if the dog earing and the coffee stains and stuff are critical to the customers, especially in the transition, it was a plugin that's what it produces, is it would put random coffee stains into the digital documents just to really give it that flavor, you know.
In the guitar world, that's called relicking. So they
I think
they sand off parts of it and they make it look like it's really used, and cracks and
yeah. Or you buy jeans that are pre-broken and all that.
If the packet's too nice, maybe they feel like you haven't done enough work. But when you come with this ratty, beat up packet, that thing's been used. That thing's been through some stuff. So I think you're right, Eric.
Hey, Paul, let me ask you, like, are there common characteristics that some of your favorite projects have shared?
Oh, yeah, I think there are. Mostly like good people that you work with.
I didn't want to know what they were. I was just curious. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's a yes or no question, Paul.
No, it's the people. Hopefully you're doing something good, and you're doing something good for, maybe you meet the people you're doing stuff for, maybe you don't. It's kind of been a mix on whether you actually meet the people who benefit from your work or not, or at least in my case. But yeah, that's kind of been like the relationships you build with the people you work with, the experience you have with it. You?
The people, I struggle with, because it's an easy answer, right? Saying the people. Because, I don't know, people are everywhere. But like, yeah, I think, even though, like I said, I'm building business software, and I have been for way too long, I have been fortunate to work with some pretty cool teams. And not that this is any indication of how cool the teams are, but half of the garbage you see behind me is gifts from, a lot of that is now SDG and other, and my client and previous gig. But like a couple of posters. Anisha got me a really old bottle of Johnny Walker 18. Like, so the people, they matter. The environment that I'm in also matters, right? Like, is it supportive? Is it like, is it collaborative? Or is it just, hey, we're doing this thing, right? And I don't actually get to have much input. So that hasn't been the case for me for the last 15 years, but I remember coming up in the industry, my first 10 years especially, it was a lot of that, like, prescribed, this is how we do what we do. And I guess you kind of need that for the first 10 years, but I wouldn't be, and I don't handle it as well right now, if that approach is taken. If that was the approach with me right now, I would be a little less happy than I am. But you're right. The people, I worked out of an office in Northeast Minneapolis for a decade. I like that neighborhood. That made going to work feel a lot nicer. If I can't pick the type of project that I'm going to work on and deliver, at the very least, I want to be doing boring work with cool people. And that's, like you're saying, that's kind of nice. Ideally, though, like, I wouldn't just, we work 10 hours a day, most days, 5 days a week. That's more than a third of our life, right? Like, I want to spend that third with people that I choose to be around, and not people that I have to be around. Eric, what about you? Don't say people. You can't say people, man.
No. I was thinking about people, just addressing the people thing. Like, I worked with a whole lot of people that I loved as people, that I hated working with, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that's all of it for me, because I have people that I liked working with at a personal level, but I hated trying to get things done with them, if that makes sense. But I think that when I look at the list of projects I had written down, I think a common thread is it tends to be projects where who we're working with embraces the idea of continuous improvement, like, because it gets talked about a lot. Like, I've been in a lot of projects where people talk about wanting to do continuous improvement or talk about we're gonna do fail fast and stuff like that. You say we're gonna do fail fast, and then you fail, and then they get mad. It's like, but it's right in the name. We were going to fail on purpose and quickly, but now you're mad that we failed, right? Like, so I think that the important thing is ones where the approach was not, we're going to do this thing in this amount of time with these resources for this much money. It was, we're going to invest this much money indefinitely, or commit these resources to this indefinitely, and see what we can do along the way, right? Like, we'll change the focus and whatever. We have a North Star where we're trying to go, but we're just going to continue to iterate on this over and over and over again. And those tended to produce the best results by far, versus the ones where halfway through it just turns into a giant argument about what the definition of done is. And that becomes, that takes over the entire project.
Does that kind of leadership come from like the technology side, or have you been fortunate to work with like great Scrum Masters or Agile practitioners? Like, where does that continuous improvement thing start, and how does it die?
So my background is with a consulting firm where we did much smaller projects, I would say, like with small and middle-sized companies. And it really came from the customer, like if they were willing to embrace it, because it has a lot to do with how they were budgeting and viewing a project. Because for those scale of companies, like bringing consultants is awfully expensive, right? Like it's a big burden for them. And so I could see how, like, they have a particular problem they want to solve. They want to bring somebody in, solve it, and then be able to move on. Mm-hmm. But the customers we had that viewed it more as a long-term relationship, and it wasn't always that we needed to stay engaged perpetually. It was a problem they were going to solve perpetually, and sometimes they would get to a point where they would feel steady and they would hire. We would help vet employees that they were hiring to replace us and stuff like that. So it wasn't just about us just having that revenue stream. It was just about them realizing that this is a product, and that product needs to be continuously maintained and improved over time. Is the path to success, in my opinion. And sometimes it was really tactical, because like you could point to specific things. Like if you were going to do a mobile app, for example, it was an easier thing to say, like, look, if you're going to put this into the iOS App Store or the Android Store, you're going to get feedback from customers. If you do not address that feedback, your app will never be seen again, right? Like you need to take this seriously and have this feedback loop and make this happen. And sometimes they would embrace that, and sometimes they would not.
I do kind of forget sometimes. So I'm working at a very, 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 very large company right now who has money and resources to allow us to do, your fugue state of continuous improvement and all of that. And, they've had me out there for more than 5 years. So like we've been bankrolled by this company. That's probably the worst way to say it. But I do kind of forget, like my aunt's husband, still owns and operates kind of one of the smaller boutique web design shops, right? Like if you're, ABC Plumbing, call up, my Uncle Ricardo, and he will help you build out a website and a presence and the scheduling system or whatever, right? Because there is still that need, but those are all like fixed bid, like I've got this much to spend, I have to hit this number. We don't care if we're not following, agile best practices. We just need a gosh darn, and it sounds like you're somewhere in between massive company and tiny plumbing shop, right?
Yeah, I've run the gambit, but we took on customers that were that, like where the headquarters of the company was some guy's house, right? And they would have business meetings in his basement, but also, we were fortunate enough to work with companies where that's where they started, and by the time that they took the work internal, it was they were occupying multiple floors of an office building and stuff, right? Like we were able to help them with that transition, which is very rewarding to see them through from, backyard meetings to to boardrooms.
Yeah,
you need to see the kind of the payoff when you do a project, and we walk away right as it's ramping up. We finish, they start, and in a lot of cases, and so you don't always see the fruits of your labor as a consultant. My first thing I ever did was a quote form on a website for a construction company. And I finished it and handed it over, and that was it. And then didn't hear anything. I finally ran into the guy at the state fair. And I said, "Did that quote form ever work out for you guys?" And he said, "Half of our business comes through that quote form." And I felt good about that. But I didn't feel good until I heard that, because it's, you just don't know. And I've had a few projects like that where it's like, well, I hope they get a lot out of this. I really do. Because you walk away. The first project I did for SDG went really well, and it's been in use. It was a content management system that they use for their training process, design and delivery of the training. And there was a lot of it because it was a call center, and the products changed frequently. And so they did trainings like every week. And that made it through like 5 migrations and without a hitch. And the last time I talked to them, it had been in use for about 10 years. And that makes you feel really good. It's like I earned my money on that one.
I like doing projects with like retail type like companies or products and stuff, because you could see it come out the other end then as a consumer. Because like a similar example is like the first time I saw my work like in the field was, we were writing in an intranet system or like page for just a brick and mortar retail company, back when those existed. And I went but it was also a place I happened to frequent, and I went in there, not seeking it out, but I walked up to the checkout counter and I looked, and on a monitor behind the counter was like the page I had built, open. It's just fun. It's just fun to see that manifest in reality, right? And I, of course, wasn't the guy that was like, I built that. But it was, nice to just smile to myself for it.
I ran into. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I know we were trying to avoid like bad projects, but I can give an example of a project that went sideways, but in a stupid and fun way. We're working on like it was actually for the company I worked for. We were using a platform for tracking work, right? It was like an open source thing that we were using because it was free. But since it was open source, it was something we could modify, and we needed it to track. We tracked official work, right? So you would get work defined and then assigned or whatever, but there was a lot of overhead in our time tracking that wasn't accounted for by that. And so we wanted to get an idea of what that was. We were going to build a way to put in the time that you were spending that wasn't pre-planned. So meetings and other overhead, like my computer broke and I needed to spend time fixing it and that kind of stuff, right? So we could track that. But there's all of the different things, because there's features and stories and tasks and issues and bugs and all that stuff, right? Everything is classified. So we needed a classification, like a name for that otherwise unclassified work. And so just to give it a terrible name that would force the management to decide on a proper name for it, there's a word I had learned about, which is like, people have siblings, which is a gender neutral. You can have a brother or a sister, it's your sibling. If you have a niece or a nephew, the gender neutral version of that is a nibbling, which is a word I thought was funny. And so for no real reason, I called it a nibbling when I initially wrote it and demoed it, and said, okay, but you got to come up with a better name. That's just a placeholder name. And it never got changed. And the word nibbling got said inside that company millions and millions of times over the remaining time I worked there. And I hated it every time.
Oh, you made my day. You taught me a new word, and I have so many nibblings. They are now going to be addressed as such.
Yeah, which you should. I don't know if it's in. You have to pick a dictionary to go by, and I like Merriam-Webster's. I don't know if it's a word in that dictionary or not, but I think it's a fantastic word for that purpose.
I use the word pixel hose for the VGA cable for the projector in a conference room. And that was about 15 years ago. And I believe it's still in use today. They still call it the pixel hose. Packet hose for the network cable never really took off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the Pixel one
Yeah.
still going strong. And how's that
Yeah.
cable doing? Is that one okay?
I think they switched to HDMI. So I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe they changed the name.
I'm checking on nibbling, and it's not in the dictionary, but Merriam-Webster wrote an article about the word, and because it's a word they're keeping an eye on.
Mm.
So Paul, if you start using it, it might be just enough for it to cross the threshold where they'll add it to the dictionary.
Yeah. Yeah, a number of years ago, I remember reading an article of words that were endangered and gave you an opportunity to sponsor one. And one of the ones that was, for some reason, I don't know why, but it clicked with me. It's called pugnastics, which is the skill or alacrity with which one is able to do in boxing, the pugilistic arts, as it were.
Yes.
What did you say? You used another word when you were describing a word. Acricity?
Alacrity?
Alacrity. Thank you. I'm sorry. I got pinged by 10 people at the same
Oh.
time. Alacrity. There's a word that's about to go extinct unless you keep using it.
Okay, I'll
Keep it live.
try and
You can do it.
try
Chad,
and
you
do
had asked a
that.
question of Paul. His answer was people. What was that question again?
Is there a common thread on that flows through some of your favorite projects?
Yeah.
Are there common characteristics? He said people. Eric kind of said people too.
I'd
I think
say-
people in physical location.
I'd say lack of resistance. A lot of times as a consultant, you're not really a welcome entity into the team. And sometimes you show up and you're just glared at, and your ideas are kind of shot down, and it's just seems like it's just not going to work out. You're just hitting this, it's like this sluggish progress because of dealing with sort of preconceived notions and things like that. So overcoming those, showing that you're a force for good and only there to help, winning people over, those are things you can do. Finding allies, finding people that you can kind of team up with that can speak the language of the business if you don't, and they can kind of translate business needs and things like that. That's been very helpful.
Paul, have you had that experience where you're not welcome when you come in?
No, every time has been wonderful. Never. I'm trying to prepare myself for the possibility that I might face some resistance. I've never been in a place where somebody has almost summarily disagreed with me on principle. It's never happened.
On everything.
On everything.
It is an interesting take. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that I would have been here for 5 years if I had that same experience. Maybe it's coming. I don't know. I've done consulting at SDG now for 5.5, and then prior to this, like another 10 at previous consultancies. And I don't know. I guess I've just been really lucky that I haven't run into that yet.
It usually doesn't last.
Yeah.
One way or another, something changes.
Yeah.
It has to. I mean, there's people that are part of the mission. I look at every project I got on. I looked at, what's the mission? What glorious mission am I taking up? And sometimes you feel like you care about their project more than they do, and more than the people do. And it's really not the case. It's just that you're the one that has to do all, you're the one doing the work. So of course you care about that stuff, and they have 50 other jobs. Um, that's always been a problem too, is, a lot of the work I've done has been with the business, and they all have jobs. And so you're taking time out of their normal day to day. So time, people that can give you time, I think is really valuable. If you ever work in the healthcare situation, nurses are scheduled. Every millisecond of their day at work is scheduled. So getting time to talk to a nurse is very difficult. And if you want to talk to a doctor, you have to fake an injury and make an appointment. That's the only way. I actually talked to my own doctor a few times and did some interviews and stuff. And he wasn't part of the same organization, but he was just willing to answer my questions, because we were kind of trying to develop some personas and things like that to help understand where everybody was at, how they saw the world. Yeah, so I think, I don't know, it's just, if it's smooth sailing, it's smooth sailing. And we kind of go in if it's rocky. If they're doing great, they don't need us to come in. So a lot of cases, it's, they need a body. They need some expertise. They need that. And I think one thing SDG brings to the table is a lot of us have been doing this for so long and worked with some great teams, and we know what that looks like. And we bring kind of a positive attitude and willing to work. And I think that our culture can affect other teams that we're working on, and kind of bring up the level, help everybody's moods. Chad, early on when I first met Chad, he was consistently bringing breakfast to his people and taking care of his people. I guess you're probably still doing that stuff.
To a degree, it gets expensive. I mean, yeah, that all comes out of my pocket, and after a while,
yeah, used to be able to get like 2 of those breakfast burritos at McDonald's for $1. Now they're like $3.89 a piece.
Yeah.
Well, it was twofold. So one was supporting the small business in Minneapolis that's owned by this woman that I adore, and so I would go down and grab 10 or 15 sandwiches from her once or twice a week, and then bring them to the office. And then also, yeah, people, they were delicious. Paula, did you ever have one?
I think I did. The ones that were wrapped in the foil.
Yeah.
Yeah, those. I had them, I think, once. So
Yeah.
Would recommend.
I would say it was one of the best breakfast sandwiches I ever had, hands down.
Yeah,
It
but
was
between
fantastic.
that, the happy hours that I've funded, the bills rack up. So we dialed that back, and my team is shrinking too. So,
But look at the wall you have behind you.
What's
the
that?
wall of thank you. All the gifts and things. And
Yeah, and the cool thing is, like, I can look at some of these and be like, I know who I was. Like, I was at that show with that coworker, and I was at that show with that coworker, and it was, yeah. Most of these are not just concert posters or art, but they're actual events that I was at, and a beautiful Georgia O'Keeffe down there. So I appreciate all my friends at work trying to keep me cultured and relevant. Yeah.
I think
And
we
in this case,
got
tipsy.
5 minutes left. And I think we've talked about all our stories, I think. Do you guys have any parting thoughts?
I'm keen. I'm keen to try a breakfast sandwich now. Now I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah.
Is that place still around, Chad?
Yeah, she's hang on. It's she's still in business. I might if I have time, I might stop in on Wednesday. This is going up to. This is the place. There's a little
Sweet.
artist did a little. I don't know if that's watercolor of her spot. Yeah, maybe. Are you in the office on Wednesday, Eric? I might bring them in.
Not usually Wednesdays, but we could chat about it.
Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday, or I would say Monday or Tuesday, but it sounds like I might have to go to Wichita. So,
I think
Oh, nice.
a very good sandwich, access to very good sandwiches is an important part of any project. I think with that, we can shut her down and say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Well, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.